Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5th edition of the Say What, Speak and Serve Initiative National Debate Competitions that are running under the theme Nurturing Ideas for a Healthier Society Through Debate. It is all systems go. So, many thanks to our supporting partner, which is the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe. So, for today, we're going to have 4 institutions who are the final ones for this round, which is round 1. The institutions that I have with me right here are University of Zimbabwe, Bulawayo Polytechnic, Midlands State University, and Women's University of Africa. So as earlier on, we had other 8 institutions, and these are the final 4 institutions for this round. So without wasting any time, you can take a look at our adjudicators that are going to be responsible for having the final decisions for these guys. Okay, so let's all engage. Let's talk about everything. Which institute do you actually think that is going to actually be the best in this round? And the others, yes, the others. So for you to actually engage with us, please do the hashtag SASI debate, hashtag debate for health, and you can go to all social media platforms with Say What organization. You will see us, and please try to engage with us. So without wasting any time, I'm sure you want to hear more, and as they introduce themselves, the institutes. So starting from my far left with Women's University of Africa, please, I would want you to introduce your name, the program that you're doing, and your institute, and also the position of the party that you selected.
I go by the name Dalitsun Ndlovu at Women's University in Africa. I'm doing a degree course in computer science, majoring in information systems, and I will be the member of opposition for today's debate round.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
My name is Beline Kwasira, and I'm pursuing a degree in social work at Women's University in Africa, and I'm the closing opposition.
Right, to my left.
My name is Liam Takura Kanenga, and I'm from Midlands State University, and in this debate I will be the member of government.
Hello, my name is Maria McKelvey. I am studying sociology at the Midlands State University, and I will be the government whip.
Right, to my right.
How are you doing? My name is Carol Neshava. I am a University of Zimbabwe student studying political science and diplomacy, and I'm going to be the leader of opposition.
My name is Ebenezer Kudita from the University of Zimbabwe. I am studying economics. I will be the deputy leader of opposition.
All right.
Hello everyone, I am Namathemba Mpofu. I am studying civil engineering in Bulawayo Polytechnic. I'll be the Prime Minister.
Hello everyone, I'm Donald Ndlovu from Bulawayo Polytechnic. I'll be the Deputy Prime Minister. I'm studying diesel plant engineering.
All right, thank you. So it is the Clash of Champions, and I'm sure most of you are ready for this. So let the games begin. So right now, I will say the motion. With the motion, this House believes that laws about abortion should be decided by women-only referenda. I'll repeat. With the motion, this House believes that laws about abortion should be decided by women-only referenda. So, the Prime Minister, can you come forward and start?
Now, panel, the motion for today's debate has already been brought forward. This House believes that laws about abortion should be decided by the women-only referenda. Now, we as today's government truly believe that this is true. But before we come to our actual argumentation, let us first define some important terms that are pivotal to the matter of the debate. Firstly, we'll define law. Law is a set of rules and regulations that are created and enforced by social or governmental institutions to regulate behaviors and certain standards in which a society or community of people agree upon. Now, moving on. When we talk of abortion, according to the World Health Organization, it is the termination of pregnancy prior to 20 weeks of gestation. However, definitions of abortion vary, and there's often controversy defining what abortion really is. But for the sake of today's debate, we'll use the World Health Organization definition. Moving on. Now, referenda is the plural of referendum, which refers to an event in which people vote for or against a law with a certain issue affecting them. So this then means that women-only referenda refers to a public vote or popular vote by women only on issues that are affecting them. Now, to redefine the motion, we as the government today believe that it is not only a diplomatic manner to make decisions on laws pertaining to pregnancy termination, to solely rely on women only. As we are saying that the sole burden of pregnancy and pregnancy termination entirely relies on women only. Moving on. Now, we have structured our case as follows. Firstly, I, as the Prime Minister, will provide a line argumentation for the debate by defining the key terms of the motion, which I have already done, and provide an interpretation of the motion, then finally develop the case for the proposition. And then my Deputy Prime Minister will come, refute the opposition's case, rebuild our case, and provide a case extension of our debate. Now, panel, we as today's government strongly believe that the rules and regulations pertaining to abortion must entirely be decided upon by women only. Why? Firstly, women must entirely have a voice in the design of policies and laws that affect them without external influences. All too often, women's personal decisions are infringed upon by regressive policies and harmful gender norms that prohibit them. And secondly, research shows that women-only referenda on issues affecting women create a safe space for both physically and emotional well-being for women, and they deliver better outcomes and effectiveness on issues that are affecting women, and that are also pivotal to the society. Now, let's look at how abortion and pregnancy affects both men and women, and then we'll provide a conclusion on whose hands must issues pertaining to decisions on lawmaking in abortion must completely rely on. We'll make this conclusion based on who is most affected by pregnancy and pregnancy termination decisions. Okay, firstly, let's look at health implications. Now, according to the World Health Organization, maternal health is an essential factor in the survival of both mother and fetus. Now, because of that, we are saying that although men are 100% responsible for pregnancies, but the burden of abortion, keeping the baby, putting the baby up for adoption, solely rests on women. And yes, we stand firm, saying women only must be responsible for making laws.
Thank you. Can we have the the leader of opposition, my apologies, the leader of opposition come forward.
Panel, we live in a world where 2022 has now looked like feminism is progressing as it does. And we're happy for that. We think that governments and everyone around the world is making sure that feminists understand and achieve the goals that they've wanted to achieve from the historic, terrible situations that women have been. We think that we agree with everything that has been said. We think that women are important and we value their progression and all of the feminism principles that we're getting from opening government. We think we agree. We think that the reason why feminism has progressed the way it has today is because it has allowed itself to be a situation where the society that took away from women is the one that gives back. I'll explain. We think that historically women have proven that they have been a lesser being. Progressing through time, we've seen that women have grown. We've seen that now we are even having a debate that concludes that we are supposed to have a situation where women only are going to be voting. We think that's progression. The reason why we have current progression is because we have a situation in which the feminism organizations and everything that exists and everyone who is active about feminists and their rights and women's rights has allowed themselves to juxtapose women's abilities to men's. We think that we have a world where we can clearly see what women can do and what men can do. So much so that men have come to the idea that patriarchy has accepted that women have abilities to be doing this. We think that in that situation, what it does, it gives the same head that took away the autonomy that exists from women and gives it back to women. We think that it's important for patriarchy to be involved in empowering women. It's important for patriarchy to be involved in handing over that power and that autonomy as the place where it originated from taking it. We think that's important. We'll tell you why we think that not only do we think that abortion should not be decided by women only, but we also don't think a referenda is the best way to do it. I'll tell you this. I'll start with the question, why women? Why do we necessarily think that women are the right specific people to be doing this referendum? We think that at the beginning of all we are talking about with gender equality, I'll explain how the equality of genders can only come from the whole of society. We are asking a society that has already rendered women useless and a lesser being to say that they are the reason, they are the only people that are going to have a power to decide on abortion. What this means is it leaves abortion rights, whatever it's going to be, whatever women only decide, it leaves that particular decision open to criticism from any other male counterpart that did not take part in that decision making. It also allows the entire of society to question if either it is a good decision or not, because not only did it take place with one gender within the society, but it also took place with the gender that people have historically considered a lesser being. So what we think needs to happen is a situation where we have the inclusion of all. Secondly, I'll talk to you about the precedents that's going to be set by this particular policy. We think that in a world where we exist, where women have proven that they can be equal and they can show the power that they have, to come and say that we want situations where a specific gender or a specific ethnic group is going to come and have a referendum only to prove that only because they are the most affected. We are setting the precedence that the democratic system that we created is only going to allow a marginalization that happens within the decision making and socialized barriers.
Can we have the Deputy Prime Minister come forward?
To skip the introductions, let me get straight to my role as the Deputy Prime Minister, which is actually to refute, building and extending the line of argument which was flawed by the Prime Minister. As we stand firm and unshaken supporting the motion, we state that this House believes that laws about abortion should be decided by women-only referenda. Before I move on to my own case in a minute or 2 minutes time, I would like to actually rebut the first speaker from the opposition side, who actually came here and actually speak about the policies that are pertaining to women. And hence, he came here and actually say that, yes, now we are living in a society where there is no patriarchal, where women are not seen as minority. Yes, we agree to that, because we are saying that women should only make laws pertaining to this abortion on the sense that these women actually have become the main significance and the main people who are endowed.
Point of information.
Accepted.
Refute the claim that a referendum is supposed to be a reflection of all of society, not a gender.
Not a gender. Madam Speaker, can I tell you something? The basic issue here is that we are looking at how these laws are actually going to bring about a better society. Hence, we are saying that a referendum pertaining to these women is the best solution. How? In what sense? Because those impacts are pertaining to what? To women. Women are the same people who are actually being affected here. Then right now...
Point of information.
Accepted again.
Refute the claim that long-term wise the male counterparts that you have declined in this decision making will arise to refute it.
Sorry, I just wanted to disagree with your point. I didn't say that. What I basically said is that the key aspect in this motion is that we are saying that women should actually bring about a referendum. In what sense? Because they are the so-called people who are under the bottom line of actually being heard and actually feeling the sense of humanity and actually contributing to a better society. And now moving on to my points as explaining the line which was flowed by my first speaker. First of all, I would like to say that now the issue of resolving all the gaps that the opposition government was actually agreeing that he went on to speak about feminism and actually agree that these women are actually today's society are empowering themselves. Yes, they are empowering themselves. Yes, now we're living in a society of 50-50 percentage. Yes, it is like that because we need to actually bring about a 50% role, right? And how are we actually obligating for a better change? We are obligating for a better change by actually saying that these women should actually bring about a referendum only themselves. Then, panel, what I want to actually say that we are saying that rules and regulations pertaining to the abortion must be solely rested upon women and women alone. And how are we saying that? We are saying that these laws affect them without external influences. But on the sense that of consent, we are saying that a male and a female, they actually agree that, no, let's have a baby, right? When they have the baby, we actually would agree that they should both make a referendum. But on a sketch that it is the only woman who is actually being abandoned, then we are saying that only women should make the referendum and actually agree to these laws to take place in the country. A comparative analysis shows that women-only referenda on issues affecting women creates a safe space both for physical and emotional for these women to deliver better outcomes and effectiveness. Thank you.
The Deputy Leader of Opposition, you can come forward.
Panel, we need to address a lot of issues. Number one, a referendum is not something that you just wake up and decide to do. A referendum is a decision that is made, that is legally binding, it's taken to Parliament, Parliament acts on it. So when opening government talks of a referendum, the talk of a referendum is, no, if the pregnancy was consent, then they can have a referendum. If they're not, no. We're talking referendum on a national scale, one. Let's start the real debate. When we say why not women, we say number one, you can't have a referendum on women only because it questions the entire legitimacy of the referendum. When a referendum is made to decide a decision which a country or law should take, it means it should have a buy-in of a population. So when more than 50% of the population is excluded from a decision-making process, it means that decision-making process cannot be binding, cannot be law in that particular country, number one. Number two, even if it was, we don't think it's effective and does the greater good. Because understand, the principle behind this whole abortion movement is the empowerment of women. You don't empower women when you don't involve the people responsible for the disempowerment of women in the process. When you're saying no, women only should decide this, you're not, it means that when focus groups come in, when SAYWHAT is making their campaigns, they're only campaigning to women because they're the only people who get to vote. No, Maria. When women are when groups like SAYWHAT, it means they're only going to these particular only particular groups of women and not focus on the men. Why? Because those are the only people who are going to vote. And also, when a law is made in a shortly manner, it's going to be struck down in the future. When women want to make abortion laws that stick, let's make abortion laws that stick. Having a women-only referendum means that this law will constantly be fought in the courts until God knows when. That's number one. Number two, why not referendums as a principle? Number one, referendums as a principle are binary in nature. It's a yes or a no. It gives you no opportunity to ask questions about what about this, what about this? What if I want this and don't want this? We think referendums don't do that, no. We think number two, bioethical principle issues should never be decided by the majority of people. Why? Because if we do so for example, in a conservative country like Africa, we say, no, we're putting these issues to referendum. Of course, these things are going to be shut down. Why? You cannot give the majority the power to decide over the minority. It simply cannot work. You cannot give people who are, okay, Maria, make it good.
Okay, you argue pragmatics, but let's talk about the representation that happens in Parliament right now. Is it more women or more men?
Okay, Maria, this is the problem that you're having. You are trying to solve the issue. You're not solving the root of the problem. The root of the problem is not in the numbers game. The root of the problem is a game of perception. Having a referendum for women only does not solve the real problem. The real problem is men are not respecting our women. What do we do? Do we leave them out of the decision-making process? No. We educate our young men to say, no, this is how the things should be done. And it's working in society. No, I'm not taking our men arguing that. But also, the idea of principles, referendum is all about principles. It's a principle of a referendum is to buy in of society. right, we don't think you fulfill that under their side of the house. But not only that, we've totally rejected the idea of that decision like this should be made by referendum. As I mentioned earlier on, bioethical decisions, especially decisions that are this nuanced and this complicated, this is about human life, potentially about a life or not, should not be made about the whims. Because referendum, we've seen the referendum about Brexit, we've seen the referendum about Colombia, whether to go to war. We saw the referendum. The referendums are all about populism and who gets a loud vote, not about the real issues. We don't tackle real issues. Referendums, they've tended to trivialize real issues. We don't think we want that under our house. But most importantly, under the side of the argumentation, that does this solve anything in the long run? We don't think it solves anything in the long run. We don't think you achieve anything in nature. If you want to achieve real change in the solution, number one, don't make policies that will be refuted in 10 years' time because the legitimacy was questionable to begin with. We also don't think that leaving a gender out just because you don't think it's worth. But also, where does the madness stop? Are we then saying that if we're having a referendum of where to go to war, then soldiers only are going to vote just because they are the most affected? No, being the most affected does not give you exclusive rights and abilities to be the only person to decide, because everyone is affected, degrees differ. If we're saying we're having a referendum about whether schools should open, are we saying teachers only get to vote? We don't think that government bench needs to prove to us why we're going to have a nationwide referendum and exclude an entire gender. We've never been prouder to oppose. Thank you.
All right. So, as Elia, please engage with us. Tell us which institute are you rooting for? Which one do you think is going to make it in this first round? So, in the next segment, we'll be having Midlands State University and Women's University of Africa. So, what you gotta do? Stay tuned. Welcome back to those joining us. Welcome back. So right now we're about to have Midlands State University and Women's University of Africa. To those that are joining us, the motion reads, this house believes that laws about abortion should be decided by women-only referenda. So you can tell us your views if you think maybe you know better than the people that I have right here with me, and maybe you might have some ideas that we might be interested in. So you can also engage with us on all social media platforms. So without wasting any time, we'll start with the member of government. You can come forward.
Okay, panel. I think pretty much of what the opening half has managed to do is to make this debate primarily about gender and ethnocentric debates. But that is not where the chat is. The chat in this debate is primarily on focusing on the center of democracy and what it means in terms of promoting social justice, freedom, as well as inclusivity. So on that end, it is an indictment on measuring our democracy, on how much it has failed in promoting gender inclusivity, and also an indictment on how representation has been efficient in actually profiling causes that benefit people that are generally marginalized or oppressed for a long time. So, in that end, we are going to introspect whether sometimes when making laws, should we use representation and does it work, but to whose benefit, and is it a genuine reflection of solving the problem, or rather sometimes we resort to methods of consulting the affected groups directly. And in that end, we have to look at intersectionalities around women, and by intersectionalities, we are referring to the different realities, context, and class differences that women have. For example, when we use parliamentary representation, something that they've all ignored in the opening half, we are looking at how a certain class of women is in parliament. But at the same time, at the ratio power of representation, it's flawed, it's biased towards men. So men dominate in status quo, and we think that's problematic because the laws do not become a genuine reflection of what women want, especially when it comes to making laws about women. So then, when we come down now to assessing even the class differences among women, most women that make it to parliament are elite women. And these are women whose opinions have mostly been glossed and glassed in pretense of it being the universal reflection. So it is therefore better in this particular regard about abortion laws, we therefore consult all women to make it inclusive enough and a genuine reflection of what women want concerning abortion laws. So in that end, we have to look at what role then does a referendum play? A referendum plays a role to open up the democratic space to mass women's participation in deciding whether or not they can legalize, whether or not they can illegalize abortion, whether or not they can regulate. Because right now the existing laws, particularly in Zimbabwe, actually do not favor women. They might give leeway for abortion. For example, it says you can abort under certain conditions, but it does not give women the right to even choose whether or not they want to be pregnant or not. and which is something that violates their right to body autonomy. So for women to speak more on the reflections of how they view their body autonomy being valued by a certain legal system, a criminal justice system, I think it's best if we actually consider their opinions as a majority, regardless of valuing representative democracy or not. But I think at this particular point in time, using direct democracy works best to serve the sacrosanctity of the social contract. And by the social contract, we mean the flow of democracy and how people can coexist by respecting each other's rights. Yes, Ebenezer?
One, referendums are not the same as consultation. You can consult without having a referendum.
Let me cut you there, Ebenezer. Referendums and consultations are the same because they're supposed to reflect majority opinion, and in this case, the opinion of women. And with this, we are ever proud to propose.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was quick. All right, so coming up next is the member of opposition.
1. Laws are a representation of cultural ethics within a certain community. 2. When dealing with abortion, we're talking about the potential for human life, something created by both male and female, because the man ejaculates in the woman, and when the genetics combine, they create a child. 3. What do we want to solve? We want better ways of dealing with unwanted pregnancies, we want more stable families, we want better abortion care, and we want to reduce the oppression of women and the pressure on them to have babies. Now, what is the question of the debate? How do we best solve this problem? To this I say, if the problem is lack of representation, we can introduce quota systems, we can increase participation, we can raise awareness, we can increase involvement. If it's a democratic principle which you stand by, we can create a system whereby we have majority of women being in the consensus in order to make the decision to ensure that their problems are prioritized and that their opinions are taken into consideration. But what do we do when we say exclusively women should be the ones deciding? You assume that they take sole responsibility of taking care of a child that it took two people to make. One of the problems in society is that men are not taking responsibility for children. So you only exclude them from the conversation further. Because as I mentioned in the beginning, laws are a representation of cultural ethics and norms. So by saying women should be the only ones to decide the abortion laws, what you're indirectly telling society is that as a woman, it's your sole responsibility to take care of whatever happens to the baby. Yes, Maria?
Have we not had men being part of the conversation of abortion in Zimbabwe? Yes or no?
We have, and the problem is that they are the majority in parliamentary systems, which is why I'm saying create quota systems that put women in the majority so that they gain the kind of control that you want in your, say, democratic society, to ensure that they have representation, they have power, they have control, their opinions are voiced. You can do that with quota systems. But by excluding men, you exclude them from the framework of legality, policy creation. Men will neglect abortion. We won't take care of women who we make pregnant because they're the ones who should deal with that by themselves. Last chance.
Well, quota systems already exist in status quo and they've been failing.
They've been failing because they don't exist in a position where they put them in the majoritarian position, which is what I'm saying. Create a quota system that gives them majority control. Create awareness campaigns. Put them in power. But you don't have to exclude men, because by excluding that fragment of society, you create the assumption that men are not affected by abortion. When you're the father of an unborn child and a woman has the say exclusively without mutual consent on what happens to the baby, what you're saying is, as a man, the potential of this human life is not your business. It's not your responsibility. It's got nothing to do with you. And when you make such a statement, you make men less responsible in society. They're less likely to actually be involved in the life of children, which is one of the problems we're actually having. A lot of men are in support of abortions. The challenges we're facing are consequences of economic degradation, lack of access to sexual health, which is why a lot of people are having unwanted pregnancies to begin with. You don't solve this by saying, in order to have abortion policies, only women should be the only people to decide what does or doesn't happen. You're just creating an exclusive environment which negates the idea that men actually are involved in the process of an unborn child who they were involved in making. So what have I shown you today? I've given you alternatives of achieving the goals we want. I've outlined the problems. I've told you why these problems exist in society, and I've shown you why exclusivity not only doesn't solve the core problems at hand, but how it creates more problems by negating the responsibility men should be taking in society when we're dealing with issues of unborn children from a social cultural perspective to create laws. In doing so, I've shown you that it would be better to have both sides participating, because a familial structure has both the woman and the man, the father and the mother. And by degrading that system, by deciding to have an exclusive base on who makes the decisions, you're creating a socio-cultural norm or narrative and ideology that if you're pregnant as a woman, it's your problem, it's your story. Men, you're not involved. Men already have lack of involvement in terms of custody, which has harmed the relationship, and you're only making it worse.
Thank you. Can we have the government whip?
And we think the only why we have 14-year-olds passing away due to child complications is because of the mindset we have on opposition today. We think for so long we have had men wanting to decide on the things that affect women holistically. We think it is good that opposition came and spoke about biology, but we think Liam clearly comes and tells you why it is important to have us looking at women from different perspectives and different spectrums being included in the conversation. Because whether you like it or not, constantly we have parliaments which have representation of women, yes, but representation of women that are not a part of the very same poor women that are found in constituencies that don't allow them to be included in decision making, but above and beyond to even give them the level of autonomy that they need. We think it becomes very problematic when you assume that just because that the majority decision is problematic, we shouldn't move forward with something. Because we think at the end of the day, the majority of the people that are affected by abortion are women themselves. And we think, yes, men do participate in the idea of procreation, but we need to also accept that majority of the times, women are implemented or like have the implications on a physical, emotional, and financial level. And we think above and beyond it, it's always men that ultimately even force the very same women to be a part of that procedure itself. So at the end of the day, let women be a part of that conversation, not only because it empowers them, but we think at the end of the day, it directly affects them. We think we are done and tired of people saying just because it's not something that is structurally, like systematically formal, we shouldn't have it. We think at the end of the day, we can't have all women joining parliament. So therefore, a referendum is important because at least all women's voices can be heard in that spectrum. We think it becomes very problematic when you ultimately continuously shun out these individuals who are not going to get that opportunity at the end of the day. Mind you, status quo looks like a lot of women being disadvantaged just because they don't fit in the social class, just because they don't fit in the racial class, and also even in the economic class at the end of the day. So we think it becomes very problematic. Dalit also comes and talks about human life. We think, yes, but the reason why we're talking about having this referendum is that we are already conceding that there is a pro-life versus pro-choice debate happening. But who should be in control of that pro-life and pro-choice debate at the end of the day? We say give women that opportunity because we're directly affected by it, but above and beyond, when it comes to deciding the things that are very pertinent to women, they are constantly being excluded. When it comes to talking finance, we are out of it. When it comes to talking things to do with politics, we are out of it. And then when it's time to talk about things to do with your body, you are out of it. It becomes very problematic because whether you like it or not, most of the time when we're looking at representation, the very same men that they want to pay back are the very same men that implement the bad things in the society that we exist in. And at times, what if they then decide to say, no, we want to reverse all your effort, like the Roe versus Wade instance in America? A lot of women are now suffering because of the very same men that are selfish enough to say that women shouldn't be given that choice at the end of the day. So our side just advocates for a world where women who are vulnerable can get that opportunity, not only to decide no matter the spectrum that they exist in, but above and beyond, the whole aspect is which side really protects the vulnerable women, which side really advocates for democracy, especially when there's no representation. And we think this is definitely the government bench case. Thank you.
Okay, lastly, can we have the opposition whip? You can come forward.
Well, I think that it is actually a good thing that as the closing opposition, we will following through the proceedings of the debate, and we would want everyone here present to know that we are for the motion that women involvement should be, we should gauge for women involvement, but without excluding their counterparts, which are the male in this instance. If push comes to shove, I think we can even create quotas. This is coming from a point of realization that as humans we coexist. We live for each other. No man is an island. As such, we should do unto others as we would want them to do unto us. That is the golden rule. Something that we have learned since childhood, and for me, I've learned this golden rule during my infant stage. It goes without saying that for a fetus to be present, it has to be some form of a joint venture, that is joint venture or joint effort between the male and the male and the female. It takes two to reproduce. It takes two to tango. So I take it that we should include men in all decisions to do with child care and the upbringing of the kids. Although for obvious reasons, women are at a more disadvantage when it comes to, they are more at a disadvantage and they are more at a losing end, because we're saying for caring for the care and nurturing of children, it is a daunting task. And it is daunting in terms of the emotional attachment that is involved, the physical attachment that is involved. Nevertheless, I believe that men also have a role to play. As I said, it takes two to tango, and it takes two to reproduce. It is actually a joint venture. So we were talking about the issue of consent. Everyone has to consent to sex. So I believe that the issue of abortion, we should be inclusive in terms of both sex. They need to be present. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest with ourselves. Whether we are feminine, women are not the only or are not solely responsible for the nurturing and caring for the children. According to psychologists, a girl child would, not all of the girl child would actually prefer to be with their fathers, mainly because of what they call the penis envy. So most girls, most daughters would prefer to be with their fathers, not with their mothers. So I believe that men have a hand in it. They have to be there. So yeah. So as a social worker, I believe that I'm going to be running this by the mantra of the NESAID. I believe most of us here, we are pursuing NESAID, most Zimbabweans, because we want to go to Kuchando. So the mantra of the NESAID, they say that for any act to be considered as good, it should alleviate pain. 2, it should promote longevity. 3, it should prevent the condition from worsening. So we are saying we should promote longevity in what sense? Just imagine being alienated as a male. Just because you're male, you're being alienated from decision to do with your sperms. Is that fair? I believe that is daylight robbery, and that would actually reduce longevity. We need more men in the society. As the saying goes, love men, hate them. We need men. So we cannot exclude them now when it comes to the decision to do with their sperms or decision to do with their offspring. There has to be some form of consensus between both the male and the female accountable. So as a social worker, there are so many problems that comes with the alienation of men in decision making, and some of the men, they tend to have what we call mental disorders, and I believe we are past the COVID era, and I believe that most of our sociologists cannot handle more issues to do with mental disorders. So I believe that there's a departure from.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Love man, hate man, we all need them. What do you think about that one, ladies? Okay, so right now we're about to go to a break where the adjudicators are now actually going to deliberate on the results. So in the next segment, it's about to get interesting because, after all that fighting, we all need a break. We all need to know the people behind the debating. So it's hashtag get to know each other in the next segment. So stay tuned. Right here on Say What SASI National Debate.
Yeehaw. Yeehaw.
Welcome back. It is still the 5th edition of the Say What National Debate Competition. And it is a segment whereby we just, we're relaxed and we're just getting to know each other. For those ones that may want to actually get in touch with us on Say What, please, you can go to a website which is saywhatorg.co.zw. Boys can get involved in a membership which is called Mugota. And the ladies can also be a member for the Web for Life network. So just, you can get in touch with us and also on all social media platforms. So right now, we're just about to get to know the contestants because yes, we just saw that fierce side about them, the formidable side. But right now, we just want to engage with them and know more about them. I think I'll start with Midlands State University. How was it? You didn't take any point of information. Why? You were like, tell us about that.
No, I won't let you guys bully Maria in this.
Okay, the thing is, we all get one information as a team if I wasn't told the right thing. But I think he had already taken a shot for me, so.
Yeah, right.
That's cool.
But how was the experience? You are the reigning champions, right?
Yes.
They're not saying it with confidence. Are you not sure that you're going to make it for this one? But how was the experience for today, especially for this round?
That's okay.
Was okay. All right. Bulawayo Polytechnic, how are you guys?
We're fine.
You're good?
Yes.
As a Polytechnic, for this year, as I said earlier, that this is a unique year where we always had universities. How is the feeling of being part of the national debate competition?
It feels great. Really great. You get to chill with the big boys.
With the big boys.
Yeah, I'm joking. But anyways, it's a really great experience. It's the exposure, we're expanding our knowledge. It's really fun.
Sir, any words for that one? Same applies. All right, University of Zimbabwe. How was it? I kind of sense like there's a beef between you and the MSU. Am I sensing right?
Definitely.
Nah, no, it's not beef. It's just a rivalry.
It's just a rivalry.
Yes, I know beef.
I had MSU saying that they are the biggest institute. I thought it was University of Zimbabwe.
I don't even think any of them dare to say that because they'll be like,
I just said it.
no, you're not the biggest. They're not the biggest.
How many are you?
They're not the biggest.
How many campuses do you
I
have?
feel like Liam, you should really, really not say anything. You literally spend all your time at the University of Zimbabwe.
Really?
Just to help you grow. Everybody needs training rules and advice.
Also, MSU says they're biggest in terms of numbers. We all know numbers not about what determines bigness.
Sometimes it does. Surface area too. How many campuses do you have? We even have your campus in Harare.
All right.
Until UZ is a campus in Gweru.
Your criteria for big is very weak, Liam, but it's fine. It speaks to the
Okay,
level.
what
of
other criteria do you have for big other than numbers and
Excluding tall men with dreadlocks.
Okay.
Know anything about tall men, would you, Liam?
All right. I think. All right. Fine. Women's University of Africa. How was the experience?
It was breathtaking. I couldn't stand it,
Mm-hmm.
but I tried my best as always. As always, I always try my best. I put in my all, and I hope something come up of it.
All right, sir. How was it for you? Did everything go according to plan?
I thought to myself, if I ever want to have a baby and I'm left out of the conversation and my wife aborted, I would be traumatized.
All right. Okay. So many thanks to our main supporting partner, which is the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe. So if you want to actually know more about sexual reproductive health, or you might just want to, you might have questions, please feel free to get in touch with us on our free toll line number, which is 577. It's that simple, 577, and you can get assisted. But anyways, it is the results time, and they have to be announced. So I hope that most of you, you got it right. But if you didn't, it is what it is. So we start with the fourth position. The fourth position, the institute that is on the fourth position is Bulawayo Polytechnic. Bulawayo Polytechnic. That position, you ready? It is Midlands State University. Midlands State University. Well, let's just get right into number one, the champions, the big dog of this round one. So the number one, the first position goes to I'm sure some of you got it right. It's University of Zimbabwe. Let's give them a round of applause. So it has been an exciting round one journey, and I'm sure that next time you will meet. So for next time we'll have all other institutions battling for the honors. We want to see who is the champion for this year's SASI National Debate Competition. From me to Tinder, Prince Chinainai, yes, and also from us to say what. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Even Mandela had a dream. EMP is a dream. You better get up and work on your dream. Work on that dream. Work on that dream. Work on that dream.
I got a dream. When you know you have a dream.
Work
got a dream.